Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's Business Success Series presented by Manulife. Today, what we can learn from the land, stewardship and monitoring efforts and opportunities at RARE. My name is Ian McLean, and I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. Before we get started, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we do live and work on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples, as we seek a renewed relationship based on a foundation of mutual understanding and respect. As participants in today's virtual event, we are coming together as one. We believe everyone is free to be their true self and receive the same respect and opportunity, regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, culture, identity, sexual orientation, beliefs, or language. We hope you will join us in fostering a positive environment here today that is a safe and welcoming space for all. We know that there is more that we can do, and we are committed to listening, learning, and growing as we go. Today's session would not be possible without the continued support of our sponsors and partners. So a special thank you today to our title sponsor for the Business Success Series, Manulife, our platinum sponsor for the series, our friends at the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region, and February sponsor, KPMG. These organizations and many others are committed to supporting our local economy and providing businesses with the resources and tools they need to thrive. Just before the session starts, I'd like to go over a few quick reminders. Please do ensure that your microphone is muted throughout the presentation so we can reduce any background noise. If you have any tech-related questions or issues, please comment in the chat section and a representative of our team will get back to you momentarily. If you have a question for today's speaker, they will be gathered throughout the session and our speakers will do their best to answer as many questions as possible following the question or the presentation, and you can do that in the Q&A section. All attendees will be sent a recording of today's presentation. It will also be made available on the Greater KW Chamber website. Before we welcome today's guest speaker, I'd like to welcome Steve Power. Steve is the Waterloo's new office managing partner with KPMG. Steve has recently moved here from St. John's, Newfoundland, and we're excited to welcome him to the community. And I'd like to welcome Steve to give us some brief remarks and introduce himself and our speaker. Steve.
Thanks very much, Ian. You know, I'm thrilled to be part of the KW community. I just got settled in over the past few weeks, and I'm certainly very excited to be here. I know the activity in the Kitchener-Waterloo business community is fantastic. It's a great reputation across the country, so I was really excited to be part of the community here. And KPMG is very proud to be sponsoring this month's Business Success Series. And I have the privilege today of introducing today's guest, Jenna Quinn. Jenna Quinn is the program scientist at RARE, a local Waterloo Region land trust and environmental institute. Jenna oversees the research and education departments, connecting researchers, artists, and knowledge seekers to the RARE lands and community. She holds a Master of Science in Biology and a Master of Education and loves spending time outdoors, learning and sharing with others. Please join me in welcoming Jenna, and thanks to all of you for joining us today. I'll now pass it back to Ian.
Well, thanks, Steve, and we had a great conversation, Jenna. Well, first of all, welcome and thank you for taking the time, and to our friends at KPMG and in particular for being our sponsor this month. This topic of RARE and what it brings to Waterloo Region is really an exciting story, I think, for the region. And it does touch on business because many of our members and businesses are very, very environmentally and ecologically sensitive, and we want to do more to raise the profile on those issues. But Jenna, earlier, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I'm losing track of time, it's COVID, but your colleague Stephanie talked about RARE and how you can help local businesses with both their CSR and ESG goals, which is, you know, environmental sustainability and governance goals, also their corporate social responsibility goals, which I thought was useful because it's people and businesses are looking for those opportunities on corporate social responsibility and environmentally and sustainability and governance issues. But what are you going to share with us today? Like, give us an overview of what's the next layer of the onion that we're going to pull back.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit more today in some detail about some of our programs and their specific Sustainable Development Goal links and their importance and impact for the community. I'll also be highlighting some of the opportunities for engagement with local business, specifically some of the perks of joining our Corporation for Conservation program and other ways to get involved with us.
Okay, now one of the things, and I'm not sure if it came up in the conversation a couple of weeks ago, but one of the things that it's been described in terms of rare is, how is it that rare acts as the term canary in the coal mine for the region? What does the rare reserve and the research that you're doing, how does that help us inform the community in the region of Waterloo? How does rare act as that canary in the coal mine, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, so many people probably familiar with the idiom canary in the coal mine, and that just refers back to when miners used to actually take canaries down into the coal mines with them. And, for more than 70 years, these small birds would be an early warning sign of danger in these confined mine shafts and tunnels. So canaries are much more sensitive to pollution and dangerous gases in the air than humans. And so the humans in the mine shafts would look to the canary to see if the canary was having a lethal or bad reaction to breathing that air. And that would be a warning sign for the miners that they would have to leave. It's not safe for them to be in these areas. So basically an alarm bell that really tells them the air is not safe to breathe, it's time to go. And so long-term monitoring that occurs at the Rare Charitable Research Reserve does serve a similar purpose. We monitor a set of environmental variables consistently, and through that, we hope to be well positioned to detect concerning changes to ecosystem health over time and promptly detect new or emerging issues so that we can act quickly on them. To this end, our monitoring program is one of the longest running in the province. It was established in 2006 and follows standardized protocols that are used all across the country. We focus largely on indicator species, which means we're monitoring species that are particularly sensitive to change in their environments. They're also relatively easy to monitor and closely linked to their habitats or ecosystems where they reside. So, for example, we monitor butterflies. We could probably equally monitor beetles that would tell us something similar, but it's a lot easier to get people excited about monitoring butterflies. So they inform us on the health of the broader insect community as well as the vegetation communities, since they're so closely linked to host plants to complete their life cycle. If you think about how milkweed is essential for monarchs to thrive. We also monitor salamanders, which alert us to concerns in our forest ecosystems and water table. Salamanders rely both on water and land habitats. They live right in the dirt. So, and they also breathe through their skin. So all of this makes them very sensitive to any pollution or changes in the environment. So by monitoring changes to the population of salamanders over time, that can be indicative of a wider change or an environmental concern that we should be paying attention to. We track the growth and health of trees in the forests that we steward, looking to detect issues like emerald ash borer, which most people are very familiar with, devastating effects to urban and forest ash trees. We look for other issues like butternut canker, beech blight disease. These might be less familiar to you, but all of these are issues that impact our native tree species here, and so can have drastic effects on what our both urban and non-urban nature looks like and how we respond. We also do vegetation monitoring, which ensures early detection of potentially damaging invasive species. So, for example, Phragmites, which many people are familiar with, but also something like dog strangling vine, which is very damaging further east and north of us, but hasn't quite made it into our region yet. So we want to make sure we're actively monitoring that so we can sort of prevent its spread, which can be costly for business owners and homeowners if that's something they have to deal with on their properties and in their cities. We also look to our water systems by monitoring benthic invertebrates. Benthic invertebrates are those tiny critters that live in the bottom of our rivers and streams. And by looking at what species composition are there, so just what species are living there or what species are absent from there, we can determine if the water is healthy, if there's any issues that we should be worried about. In the region, maybe we're concerned about roadside salt, for example. Maybe there's a high presence of salt in our water, and that might be a concern. So we're looking for the presence of these species, and we're also looking for important indicator species like brook trout, which indicate a high quality cold water habitat. And we even look to see if there's any changes in the air quality by monitoring species of lichen. So you might not think anything of it, but what species are growing on our trees, that can tell us if the air quality is good or bad, and more importantly to us, how the air quality changes over time, to again alert us to any concerns. And so all of these efforts together on a regular schedule connects not only to our own programs at RARE in conservation, research, and education, but also to the SDGs, specifically number 15, Life on Land, which calls us to protect and sustainably manage terrestrial habitats. And monitoring as well positions us to take action for number 13, take action on climate change. We are well informed by the monitoring that we do, and that makes us ready to act when needed.
So one of the questions, so the long-term monitoring is, you can't measure what you don't know. So you're keeping track of that. And I'm just, you may not be able to answer this, but how might, obviously you've got a good relationship with the regional Waterloo has, as well as the cities who have responsibility for a lot of the environmental and ecological issues locally. But how does the work that you do get communicated and shared with the regional Waterloo, and what would they do with it? When you identify some of these trends, is that kind of relationship where you're giving that data, and the city of water, or the city or the regions might be able to take that and make real-time changes?
Yeah, we definitely share the data widely. That's a big part of what we do. We don't want this data to be collected and sit on a shelf getting dusty. So we absolutely share the data as widely as we can. And we also understand our own limitations. We are a small charitable staff. We don't always have the ability to really analyze the data, or sometimes it's not within our ability to act if there is something that's happening. So sharing the data widely is definitely important. We report on it every year with a short summary, but every 5 years with a complete report. We share that with community partners, governments, and a lot of other groups doing similar work across the province as well.
So you do have a relationship with, as an example, Grand River Conservation Authority, the Ministry of the Environment, the local, cities and the regional staff that are in the environmental areas. That's where you're sharing it, and maybe not doing here's what you should do, but at least be aware of the data.
Exactly. Yeah. We also use the data a lot internally to inform our own programs. So in conservation, we use the monitoring data to both inform decision making and restoration, but also to evaluate the success of our research projects. So for example, in 2013, we removed a perched culvert. A perched culvert is just, the water is going through a culvert under some sort of road or barrier. And when it comes out to the other side, it's not directly hitting the water surface. It's dropping down to connect to the existing water surface. So you could see how that could make an impenetrable barrier for movement for some fish or other small critters that are trying to, transverse this stream. And now there's this vertical gap that they can't always transverse. So monitoring first alerted us to this problem, but also by collecting data above and below that perched culvert, both before it was removed and then again after it was removed, it allowed us to really assess the the success of the restoration project and make sure we had the net benefit that we were shooting for when we took on the project. So we're able to use the data to evaluate our own successes that way. And certainly other people may use the data to evaluate their own successes comparing to a sort of natural site, sort of representative site that RARE might serve. As I mentioned before, vegetation monitoring has alerted us to the presence of invasive species. Just a couple years ago, we identified a small patch of Phragmites in one of our forested areas that's not on a trail. So we're able to immediately remove that patch to prevent further spread. And of course, that's valuable to us, but also our neighboring landowners, because Phragmites spreads extremely quickly. And once it takes hold, it's costly and in terms of time, money, and resources to remove. So it's very, very important to be preventing establishment whenever we can. Like you mentioned, we share data both locally, but also wider than that. There's a lot of great data collection projects going on in the province, or people doing similar work across the country that maybe are looking to compare to what's going on in Southern Ontario. And we can also share with nearby development projects. So if there's things going on that are beyond RARE's control, our data may be able to use to inform environmental impact assessments that need to be done before any development project can take place.
Maybe, and I should have asked this right off the top, but maybe refresh our memory. RARE, it's not just the physical space. So describe the physical. You've got the reserve itself, which is a piece of land which is protected. But maybe describe that, and then also some of the types of projects that are across the region of Waterloo, because it's not just on that, it's around the region of Waterloo. I think that context is important, is that what you're doing is you've got this RARE reserve, but you're also doing projects across the region of water in other places as well. Maybe just kind of level set us on that, because I think that's an important piece of who and what RARE is.
Yeah, great. So like you said, we are landowners. So we steward land, and that started really with this original land purchase in Cambridge, and also the township of North Dumfries. That's where people are most familiar with us, just nearing 1,000 acres right along Blair Road. People might recognize the Split Barn, which is a common event space, or North House, the solar home that sits right near our gardens. So there's certainly a lot just with land stewardship right in there on that original property, but we've also expanded, and after really talking to the community, hosting a few town halls and hearing what people had to say, what the need was, it was really that there's a greater need for land protection in Waterloo Region and Wellington County in general. So we've also started protecting satellite sites, including a few locations across Waterloo Region, some in varying states of, in negotiation, being figured out, secured, protected. It's a long process, and we have an incredible team, our Rare Sites Committee of both staff and volunteers, made up of representations, like you said, GRCA, our local naturalist clubs, our great city staff with Waterloo, Kitchener, and Cambridge. So great representation there to identify sort of potential properties for protection scattered across Waterloo Region, but also in Wellington County, where we're starting to build a conservation corridor around the Aramosa River as well, that sort of mirrors the protection corridor that we have on the Grand River.
So one of the things, this is obviously a Chamber of Commerce event, and it's topics that may be of interest or importance to business. So I'll ask the question: why might a local business be interested in supporting this long-term monitoring effort? I mean, it sounds, draw the connection between the business and the long-term monitoring efforts.
Yeah, so it's really a first line of defense. So it's great to support it because, like I was saying, we're there to detect the issues first and try to tackle them before they become established problems in the region. So you consider it sort of like a first line of defense for any land management issues or conservation issues that might emerge and become big big problems in the region, like emerging invasive species and emerald ash borer and things like that. But also the program has direct ties to the SDGs, and that might align with businesses' CSR goals. Monitoring data is reported and widely shared, so there's opportunities for recognition, such as naming a position, our monitoring intern position, or acknowledgement in the report that I mentioned that we put out fairly regularly. And we're also working to design sort of a report card style report that would be reporting back to the community in sort of simple terms on the quality of the habitats we have here, so people can be really absorbing the monitoring data in an easy way, and seeing how maybe their habitats compare to what we have at Rare. And so it can serve as sort of a comparative natural site for people taking on their own restoration projects. Lands at Rare include over 24 different habitat types. So if you're looking for a guide, maybe you have a mowed lawn area around a parking lot at your business, and you want to look at turning it into a pollinator garden or a native meadow. Well, you might look to Rare's own restoration project around our eco center parking lot for a model to see what kind of species you could plant, what types of problems you might have with that type of project. Things like exclusion fencing to keep snakes and other reptiles safe. We can be an example for those types of projects. We also often seek volunteer participation in ongoing monitoring. And so businesses may be looking for volunteer or learning opportunities for staff, and getting active in community science initiatives may be of interest there. And then people, of course, always approach us as a source of expertise in the community. And I just really want to emphasize that the long-term monitoring program is a key resource in equipping us with that knowledge, and ensuring that it's funded and staffed appropriately for the long term is really essential. For me, it's not just about how we're using this data right now, but I think about how someone might refer back to this data set in 50, 100 years, maybe more, and they could be really seeing what Waterloo region was like right here in these times, in this period, and be able to compare back to that. So it's certainly a long-term vision.
Well, you had me. I was fully on board until you said we were protecting snakes. And as someone who gets very scared by snakes, no, I'm just kidding. Maybe just to follow on to that. So local businesses, there's lots of reasons there that you've described. But one of the things that many businesses, because they're driven by the staff that they have and the varied interests that the people that work for them have themselves. So if a local business, partially it's those members of staff who have a variety of interests, some of which would be environmentally or ecologically driven. Talk about the partnerships, like your ability to say, hey, there's opportunities for many organizations like ours will give a day or two a year to have our staff go and do something in the community that's important to them. And which this might be is helping to do a project or something. Maybe talk about that part of the partnership where people can get literally their hands dirty to support the programs and the issues that are so important to Rare.
Yes, definitely. So we have opportunities for corporate groups, small or large staff groups, to come out and do volunteer work days on the land. So that's amazing. But I think I'll start by highlighting really the direct benefits of our sponsorship program called the Corporations for Conservation. So when you become a corporation for conservation, it includes the use of our facilities, lunch and learns presented by our in-house experts. And it was an initiative created really to acknowledge and honor the conservation efforts by businesses locally here in Waterloo region, and as well beyond across the province. So for some companies, this designation might be recognition of what you've already done to act as stewards for the environment via your business practices. For others, it might be aspirational. It might be an offering of Rare's expertise and support, so you can really work towards deepening those conservation practices within your business. So, and for everyone, it's an acknowledgement that your annual support of RARE at the level of $5,000 a year for a minimum of 5 years is a clear sign of your commitment to conservation and sustainability in the region. And when you become a corporation for conservation, you get access to a lot of opportunities like we've been talking about. So we have several experts at RARE, especially in the land management and gardening departments, that can be available to provide advice on what plants to consider for landscaping around your business. We recently helped the RBC branch in Preston this way. You can even just have a couple of gardening boxes or barrels and you want to create a new native pollinator garden, maybe a rooftop garden. The possibilities are endless, and it can really be anything from, a tiny balcony box to a 40-acre field that can serve to help pollinators and other species. Another great project is that we're building a native plant propagation nursery. So native plants attract native pollinators. We know this is very important, and we know choosing native species in landscaping is very important as well. And so as our native plant propagation grows, we'll be able to really supply native species to local businesses and homeowners to be able to ensure that they're, planting these native species as much as possible. So we harvest seeds from our own property and then sell them at our annual plant sale in the spring. It is coming up. I want to get the date right, May 14th. So mark your calendars. It'll be a great event. But we sell for just $2 an already started seed of a variety of vegetables and fruits for your garden or native species that you can plant. And as we grow in 3 to 5 years, we hope we'll also be able to get some trees started and be able to supply trees to the community that way as well. So we started originally by talking about opportunities for corporate volunteer days. So I'll just highlight those. Now that COVID restrictions are being further eased and we're able to start safely gathering in smaller and hopefully eventually larger groups again, you can come out to RARE, join us. We do tree planting initiatives. TD Tree Days is a great one to get involved with. Also, we have so much need in our community gardens. We have a 15,000 square foot food bank garden. Everything grown there gets donated to the Cambridge and Waterloo self-help food banks. It always needs support. It's really volunteer run. So come out and spend a day or an afternoon harvesting, watering, planting, weeding, depending on the season, whatever the garden needs. You might learn a new skill. Beginner gardeners welcome. We're always happy to sort of teach the skills that are needed. And you also are contributing, spending time outdoors, which is great for your mental and physical health, but also contributing to, food security in the region, which is amazing. And it doesn't just stop at the gardens. Come out and pull invasive species with us or plant trees with us, spread seed. Always need people cleaning up litter. So it's maybe not the most glamorous day, but come out for a cleanup day, especially in the spring, very helpful. So lots of different ways to sort of have team learning opportunities and team building opportunities at RARE that are restorative for the land, but also for mental and physical health of us as well. And I've really highlighted the C4C program, but there's many opportunities to get involved. So if the C4C program is outside of your reach, get in touch with us. You could sponsor our walk and run fundraiser, or you could join a team, make your business have a team and really come out and walk with us, help us raise money and help us raise awareness. We also have an annual auction fundraiser where you can donate items or service to help raise money for our Every Child Outdoors program.
Yeah, so it sounds like not only for the individual, the person that's working for your company, but for a small business, the opportunities to share info and also share the message about the importance of RARE and the environment and what it means for us as a community. The project work that you have, there's opportunities to volunteer, and whether it's the individual or you as a business giving people the time to be able to donate their time to a project is important. And then obviously, as you say, you're a not-for-profit. It takes the community and the business community and individuals to support it moving forward, which is really important. And so I think you've highlighted how local businesses can take advantage of the expertise that you have. There's a couple of things I've never heard before, and I getting ready for this. One of the pieces that was I found interesting, but I didn't entirely understand, was mirrored research. And it's a term I hadn't heard before. So maybe just describe, in some more detail, what mirrored research is and how it works.
Yeah, mirrored research is a program, educational program style at Rare, where we really have the kids come out and truly become the researchers themselves. So I talked a lot at the beginning about the butterflies, the salamander, all the different types of monitoring we do. So we have the youth. We typically target mirrored research programs to high school, but we've done them with younger grades as well. We have them come out and, start by asking questions, forming hypotheses, what could happen here. Really put on your scientist hat and think about this in maybe a way you haven't before. And then we'll teach them the methods and go out and actually have them collect the field data. So again, they really get to experience what it's like to be a researcher, to be in the field collecting the data, the challenges that go along with it. I started at Rare as the butterfly monitoring intern, so I really love the butterfly monitoring especially, but I have this amazing memory of the first time I ever ran mirrored research program for a high school class with butterflies. And I didn't say anything. We arrived at the trailhead, I did my opening, and then I said, we're gonna walk out to the butterfly meadow. And we just walked and I didn't say anything on the walk. And when we arrived, I said, how many butterflies did you see on the way? And most students weren't looking for butterflies. Maybe they saw one, I think I saw a small white one flying by or something, but they weren't really paying attention. And then we stand in the field and we start to really pay attention, just stand there and look around now how many butterflies you're seeing, and, just stopping and starting to look for something maybe you've not thought about looking for for before really changes your perspective. And all of a sudden it's there's one, and it's very exciting. So you get to really kind of be a scientist for the day. And then once you've learned the methods and you've tried them yourself as a student, you then get to really sit with the data. What is this telling me? What kind of more questions does it make me ask? And then analyze the data and be able to interpret the results at the end. So we've counted this many butterflies. Maybe we're comparing a meadow to a forest habitat. So you have data that says, your diversity and abundance were higher in the meadow than the forest. What does that really mean? And what can you look up about butterflies to really find the value in that data? So it's truly an experience from start to finish, an immersive experience, and really getting to think like a scientist and experience the research process.
Okay, now I'm just trying to manage our time here. I made note. Do you have a video that you want to? Because I think that would be if we could show people what it was. Was there a video you wanted to show? And then I got a couple of questions to wrap up. Or how do you want to do that?
Sure. Yeah, I have a video. I just wanted to show, we didn't talk about it too much, but maybe I'll show the video and then I'll talk about it a little bit, but just highlights how we've pivoted in the pandemic. Obviously, we're limited in our ability to deliver in-person program and education programs. So I want to highlight sort of what we did to pivot to virtual content, but also just highlight it as a resource for the community. I mean, we know this is for business owner or small businesses and businesses in the region here today, but we know business staff and owners of businesses also have families and live here in the region and might have kids. And so we've put together a playlist, a growing playlist. I think it's at 15 or 16 videos now, but we keep adding to it. That just highlights lots of different seasonally appropriate activities that are simple that you can do outside. So it's a great resource to point your kids to on a PD day if you're not really sure what to do with them, or a snow day. So I'll show one of those videos.
Why don't you show that now? And I want to come back on the other side and talk about, I guess this is post-COVID, best case scenario or best way to experience Rare is in person, but let's talk about the new realities of COVID after the fact. But let's watch this.
Great.
The winter weather is here and it is starting to get cold outside. To deal with this temperature change, many animals hibernate or migrate for the winter, but for the ones that stay behind, we have a craft for you today that can offer them a nice tasty treat throughout the winter months. This is our new Eco Bird Feeder made from compostable materials that you can find in your backyard. For this craft, you'll need a bowl and some utensils, a piece of string. If you use a natural material like cotton, hemp, or linen, even this can compost as well. you're going to need some shortening to help all the seeds stick into the pine cone. This can provide a much needed source of fat for the birds throughout the winter. You'll also need an open pine cone, which you could find under any evergreen tree. And of course, you'll need some seeds. Many different types of seeds will work. Today we're going to use some sunflower, flaxseed, and safflower seeds as well. To begin our craft, you're going to open up your shortening and put some into the bowl. Try not to get too much on your hands, as this can be really sticky stuff. Once you've got a good glob of shortening in your bowl, grab some seeds and sprinkle them into the mixture. As you start to stir it all together, the shortening will loosen up a bit, making it much easier to mix everything in. If you think there's still more room, add a few more seeds. Once your mixture is a nice consistency and full of seeds, it's time to add it to our pine cone. Now before we get too messy here, let's make sure we tie the string into the pine cone so that we can hang it up around our yard. If you have a nice open pine cone like this, you can just run the string through it a few times and tie a nice knot. Now it's time to get messy. Grab a spoon and work your mixture into all the nooks in your pine cone. And just like that, your pine cone is ready to hang. I'm going to hang mine here on my bird feeding station, but you could do any bush or tree around your yard or neighborhood. Just tie it up, and once the birds start to get comfortable with it, they'll come check it out and see what it's all about. Once the feast is finished, you can take the pine cone and string and add it to any compost pile. This pine cone adds a nice natural decoration to any yard, as well as a fabulous feast for your flying friends. From all of us at Rare, we hope you have a great time making this craft and that it brings some beautiful wildlife into your backyard today.
You know, that's it looked like more than a fabulous feast for our flying friends. It actually looked pretty good, but it's just that I haven't had lunch today. Maybe those videos really are great opportunity to kind of show how to kind of literally roll up your sleeves and get into it. You have videos that would show other parts of what Rare does and the physical nature of it. One of the things that's happened out of COVID, and I'm interested in this part of it. What's the sense from Rare of some people's expectations of physically having to go somewhere I think has really changed a lot. Some people, there'll be physical limitations or just time, and if they want to participate, virtual is going to be one of the options that people will expect, and is a good way to, whether it's a Chamber of Commerce or for Rare, to get your message out, to get the information out. Do you see the virtual field trip or the virtual part of what Rare has been doing during COVID being a remaining element to your programs and what you do for the community?
Yeah, I think it will be. I think probably across the board, there's going to be little pieces of things we've learned over the last 2 years that we keep rolling with. I think it's been a really hard 2 years for everybody for so many different reasons. And it's hard to really, put a positive spin on a lot of things. But if there's one thing that it has done is maybe open the door to possibility that we didn't know before. I know for a lot of people, the access that virtual content has allowed has been really great. And it's also allowed us to really access knowledge and talent from further distances. I know at our local nature club, we've been having, speakers that we wouldn't normally be able to have. We had a student from India come and talk to us about their research. That was outside of the scope before because we're always focusing on people that are right here in our community, which is also great to hear from, but it is nice to be able to sort of travel a little bit and hear from people and make connections around the world as well. So I do think that's something that hopefully we'll keep doing. And I do think our virtual content is something we'll keep putting out. I mean, obviously, we're really looking forward to being able to schedule field trips again and have people truly be out on the land with us. Spending time outdoors, that's the goal. Getting people to spend time outdoors and engage with nature and care about nature through whatever path interests them most. I think that's the goal. But what we've learned is that can happen in a lot of different ways. And so videos like the one I just shared and the other ones in our playlist, they may inspire you to get outside in your own neighborhood. And I think that that's really fabulous. We've also started creating virtual field trips on our website. So when we couldn't have teachers come to us, but we still wanted to be able to offer, engaging content that's related to environmental concepts, that's encouraging outside activity and outdoor exploration. So we made these virtual field trips. I think there's about 5 up on our website with more coming. So on topics like backyard birding. So that one's targeted at really elementary school, our young learners, introducing the basics of birding and some of the common species that you might see in the area. We also just co-produced one with a researcher out of the University of Windsor on microplastics, the harm that microplastics can have on our environment and what we can really do to try to stop this problem and turn things around. So lots of different interesting content and topics that, like we said, we hope we'll still have you out and visiting at Rare, but even teachers outside of our region can tap into these free resources. You just have to go through our website, and then you can have access to the field trips at no charge. So that I think what we heard from teachers and parents, I think especially early in the pandemic, is, a very sudden switch to virtual, a need for content that was easily taught over a virtual platform. And so we tried to create that to the best of our ability to support all the amazing educators working really hard in a challenging time.
Well, not to beat it to death, but the craft that you showed and the stickiness of the seed mixture, getting people to at least see and what Rare's about and what the opportunities are, even if it's a virtual context, is a great way to get them thinking about the next step, which is that in-person visit, or getting their staff involved in supporting something through Rare. So that's great to hear. Listen, last few minutes that we have, Jenna, maybe I'm always conscious of saying you come on here regardless who's speaking. What should our members or any business that's watching this session take away from today's session? What would be I don't know, 2, 3, 4 messages you want to leave with a business owner or a chamber member from today's Business Success Series?
Well, at a minimum, I want you to know about Rare. If you didn't know about us before, I hope that you do know about us now. Check out our website and just enjoy what Rare has to offer. We have a collection of trails that are free and open to the community to use. Our most popular trail along the Grand River closes for safety for humans and wildlife in the winter, but it opens again on March 15th. What a great excuse to get outdoors and go for a hike and explore maybe an area you haven't explored before. People are surprised if you haven't been out to Rare that a place like this exists right in the region. There's limestone cliffs over 11 meters tall at Rare. I think that surprises people. Trees, close to 300, maybe over 300 years old. It's a really quite a gem and a place where people can sort of spend time in nature without having to travel too far, which I think is really important. So my first message is just check us out, go outside, get on the trails, experience this great offering that's right here in our community of Waterloo Region. And as well, just consider taking a test drive with us. What can we help you do, and what can you help us do on our collective path together to really work towards a more sustainable future for us now, but also for the future generations that are coming up behind us. So yeah, that's what I hope everybody does.
All right. What is the website? Where do people go to find you? Just give them the 411 on where to find the Rare website and all the information they need.
So our website is raresites.org, and we can also be easily found on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or across platforms.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jenna. We really appreciate you joining us today. And that does bring us to the end of today's session. Once again, thank you to our title sponsor of the series, Manulife, our platinum sponsor for the series, the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region, and February sponsor, KPMG. And finally, to all of you for joining us today. As a reminder, we do host a new business success series every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Join us next week for best practices for attracting talent through job postings. Again, Asef Dari of Artemis Canada will join our guests as our guest and share how to craft job postings that are clear and concise, tell your small business's unique story, and attract the right candidates. By the end, you'll walk away knowing how to design a job posting to attract talent and what to include and not include in your job posting and how to stand out in this very tight labor market. To find out about this and other upcoming events, please visit us at greaterkwchamber.com. And also, please share this series with your friends and colleagues and join us every Wednesday at 1 p.m. for another edition of the Business Success Series. Because if it's Wednesday, it's the Business Success Series. Thanks so much. Appreciate you joining us today.